At any point in this anime, I could have turned it off, and I wouldn't even be held accountable for dropping this incredibly sus, degenerate isekai, which is pretty much the definition of an isekai. Why is it I continue to watch 3 seasons and a movie? Am I no different to a deviant like Kazuma? Am I deeply secretly sadistic like Darkness, pretending I don't like this type of narrative, believing it to be beneath me and offering nothing intelligent? But really, it exhilarates me. Yes, I've never felt this rush of excitement. Yeah, I think I know the truth inside my head, but I don't want to admit to it. Look, I'm a man of culture. I've travelled far and wide, seen things I couldn't begin to describe, but I haven't seen anything quite like KonoSuba, God's blessing on this wonderful world. The journey is truly something else. I thought this would be your generic isekai, but in truth it's kind of making fun of isekai. It's a comedy first and foremost. That's what makes KonoSuba stand out, and what makes it stand out is for the worst reasons. You have an MC who is a pervert, a supporting cast comprising distinct but equal levels of stupidity and usefulness. The world itself is kind of lame, and world building is a crucial aspect for an isekai to be successful. The creatures that inhabit this world are pathetic. Giant frogs and flying cabbages, yes, you heard me, cabbages. I mean, if I'm being honest, you find yourself sympathizing more for the villains than the heroes. You feel sorry for a Doulahan who's just minding his own business when a crazy girl who loves explosion magic constantly attacks his home. But that's what makes this show so unique, these kind of scenarios that are just so absurd and hilarious. It brings a breath of fresh air to the genre, and you know what, even though these 4 main characters are weird, irritating and psychopathic, they work well together. In terms of comedy that is, not if the show was dramatic. I do not blame anyone if they started this anime and then switched it off after a few episodes, because those people are normal. Myself on the other hand, and the people who continued watching this are not normal. We are as equally depraved and shameless as the characters of KonoSuba. We embrace the quirkiness, the pitiful fantasy landscape and the perverted comedy that this story offers. The subversion of the typical isekai genre is one of the strongest elements driving KonoSuba's appeal, and understanding why this works is key to analysing why the show is so addictive. While many isekai anime follow a formula of sending an ordinary protagonist into a fantastical world where they quickly become overpowered heroes, KonoSuba flips this trope on its head, crafting a unique comedic experience. The protagonist Kazuma and his companions are not the noble, skilled champions commonly found in these settings. They are deeply flawed, incompetent and motivated by selfish, often petty desires. This deliberate undermining of genre tropes is refreshing for viewers who are used to the more formulaic approach in typical isekai series. In many isekai anime, the protagonist is portrayed as a destined hero, often given extraordinary powers or skills upon entering the new world. They are expected to lead grand quests, defeat powerful enemies and often become paragons of virtue. This kind of setup reinforces power fantasies where the main character's rise to greatness is a given. In opposition, KonoSuba breaks away from this by offering a protagonist and supporting characters who are decidedly unheroic. This makes the show's humour and unpredictability more engaging. Kazuma is not the heroic figure typical of the genre. From the start he's shown as lazy, pragmatic and often motivated by base instincts like greed or lust. Rather than focusing on defeating great evils, Kazuma's primary goal is usually simple survival or achieving basic comforts like a stable income or a warm bath. His decisions are often selfish and he isn't shy about exploiting situations to benefit himself. Unlike noble protagonists who seek glory, Kazuma's approach is more grounded in reality, which makes his character refreshing for viewers tired of the idealized flawless heroes commonly found in isekai. He can be cowardly, petty and morally ambiguous, which paradoxically makes him more relatable because he reflects how an ordinary person might act in a similar scenario. His constant struggles and pragmatic outlook allows viewers to empathize with his frustrations. Aqua is another subversion of isekai expectations. As a goddess, one might expect her to be wise, powerful and poised, especially considering that she is the one responsible for sending Kazuma to the fantasy world. However, Aqua is none of these things. None of these things at all at any point. She is immature, vain, and more concerned with her own enjoyment than fulfilling her duties. Her presence often aggravates the group's problems rather than solving them, and her poor decision-making constantly gets the team into trouble. In more fantasy settings, divine or godlike beings are portrayed as distant, wise, and capable of immense power. Aqua's immaturity and whiny nature shatter these expectations. She's depicted as an irresponsible, spoiled character who frequently drags the group down with her incompetence. This creates comedic tension as viewers expect a goddess to be useful and powerful, but Aqua rarely delivers. In fact, her divine magic and skills are often useless in practical situations, making her a liability more than an asset. Aqua's personality makes her quite memorable, sometimes for annoying reasons or sometimes for entertaining reasons. Her over-the-top reactions, such as exaggerated sobbing or fits of frustration, provide consistent comedic moments. Her oblivious nature to her own failings adds a layer of irony that enhances the humour. Her immaturity is endearing, but it contrasts so sharply with the expectations associated with her divine status, making her one of the standout characters in terms of comedic subversion. The supporting characters Megumin and Darkness further emphasize the show's subversion of typical fantasy archetypes. Both characters have extreme, exaggerated quirks that make them ineffective as traditional adventurers, yet their personalities are so outsized that they become lovable. As an archwizard, Megumin has the potential to be an incredibly powerful ally. However, her obsession with explosion magic and her refusal to use any other spell renders her a one-trick pony. While explosion magic is highly destructive, it also leaves Megumin incapacitated after each use, meaning she can only cast it once per day before becoming useless in combat. Her obsession with explosions is absurd to the point of parody, yet this singular focus is what makes her endearing. Her dedication to explosions, no matter how impractical, highlights her childishness and stubbornness, qualities that are annoying in theory but become charming through their sheer absurdity. Darkness, the masochist crusader, is another example of KonoSuba's comedic brilliance in character design. Crusaders are typically portrayed as noble knights who selflessly protect others, but Darkness is far more interested in subjecting herself to pain and humiliation. Her extreme masochism makes her incapable of functioning properly in combat situations because she enjoys being hit or attacked far too much. This quirk is so exaggerated that it becomes a running joke throughout the series, and her interactions with enemies often devolve into absurd scenarios where she seeks out punishment rather than avoiding it. Darkness's quirks makes her lovable precisely because of their extremity. While her masochism might be unsettling in a different context, KonoSuba frames it in a way that is undeniably comedic. Her noble intentions clash with her deviant tendencies, creating a character who is both ridiculous and strangely admirable in her determination. The enduring charm of KonoSuba comes from its ability to balance chaos with levity, ensuring that while the characters are flawed, unpredictable, and often ridiculous, the show itself is a source of constant entertainment. Unlike many series that rely on dramatic arcs or complex moral lessons, KonoSuba excels because it never takes itself too seriously. The lack of pretension is key to its appeal. The show fully embraces its absurdity and transforms what could be chaotic or annoying into a genuinely light-hearted, fun viewing experience. By keeping the tone playful and the stakes low, KonoSuba becomes a feel-good series that's both refreshing and addictive. While many anime, including other isekai, explore heavy existential questions or present moral quandaries, KonoSuba keeps its focus on the ridiculous and humorous. This playfulness is key to the show's success because it allows viewers to enjoy the chaotic adventures without feeling the weight of high-stakes drama. Even when the characters face danger, the narrative is framed in such a way that the tension is diffused through humor. The show is more interested in the characters' day-to-day struggles, like earning money for food, repairing their home, or completing quests to survive. These relatively mundane problems, framed in a comedic way, create a refreshing contrast to the epic battles and destiny-driven plots seen in most isekai. The light-hearted approach to their struggles makes the series feel accessible and fun. By never taking itself seriously, KonoSuba creates an atmosphere where the audience feels free to laugh along with the characters' misfortunes, knowing that the show isn't aiming for emotional depth or moral lessons but pure entertainment. Despite the chaotic and absurd nature of the series, KonoSuba is peppered with moments of genuine camaraderie between the characters. These moments serve as emotional anchors in the otherwise light-hearted narrative, though they constantly argue and Kazuma frequently insults her, especially in moments when her vulnerability surfaces. This sense of responsibility for each other makes their dynamic more than just comedic bickering. It shows that they rely on one another in a meaningful, if often hilarious way. Even though they are dysfunctional and prone to causing chaos, Kazuma, Aqua, Megumin, and Darkness repeatedly demonstrate a sense of loyalty to one another. They may not be the most effective adventurers, but they have each other's backs in the end. These subtle moments of teamwork or personal growth, though rare, add a layer of depth to the characters without breaking the show's comedic tone. Another crucial element that keeps KonoSuba fresh and engaging is the unpredictability of its adventures. Unlike more formulaic series where the plot follows a predictable trajectory, KonoSuba thrives on the unexpected. Each episode brings a new disaster or failed quest, often due to the character's own incompetence. This roll of the dice narrative is a core part of what keeps viewers hooked. Viewers are never entirely sure how a quest or situation will unfold, as things often spiral out of control in hilarious ways. Whether it's a simple task like defeating monsters that ends up turning into a catastrophe or a chance encounter that leads to an absurd misunderstanding, the narrative is consistently dynamic. This sense of chaos prevents the show from feeling repetitive or predictable. The fact that Kazuma and his party are so incompetent means that failure is always a real possibility. While most isekai protagonists breeze through challenges, KonoSuba sets the expectation that the characters are likely to fail and fail spectacularly. This scenario makes each episode exciting because the viewer is eager to see what kind of disaster will unfold next. It works in tandem with the comedic tone to create a series where anything can happen, and viewers tune in knowing that they'll be surprised, entertained, and amused by whatever comes next. The lack of a rigid plot structure also means that the show feels flexible and dynamic, which is key to keeping viewers engaged over time. Ultimately, KonoSuba succeeds because it offers a feel-good experience that allows viewers to unwind, laugh, and escape into a world where even the most ridiculous situations are handled with humor. The series isn't interested in presenting moral dilemmas or deep philosophical questions. It's about having fun with the absurdity of the characters and their adventures. In a way, KonoSuba provides an ideal form of escapism. The stakes are rarely life-threatening, and even when they are, the show finds a way to frame the danger as comedic. The characters' misadventures, while chaotic, never feel too serious, making the show a perfect antidote to real-world stress. The ridiculousness becomes a source of comfort because viewers know they can laugh at the chaos without worrying about long-term consequences for the characters. The dysfunction of Kazuma's group, while a source of comedy, is also a reminder that imperfection is okay. The show celebrates the characters' flaws, showing that they can still enjoy themselves and succeed, despite their incompetence. This message, while subtle, makes the series more uplifting than it might initially appear.